All right, let's
What
get
else
to
we
our
got?
next news story here, which is from the Pew Research Center. And basically, the headline is the name of their new report, which is Teens, Social Media, and Technology 2023. That article opens up by saying, despite negative headlines and growing concerns about social media's impact on youth, teens continue to use these platforms at high rates, with some describing their social media use as almost constant. That's according to this new Pew Research Center survey of U.S. teens. 1,453 13 to 17-year-olds were covered in this research across social media, internet use, and device ownership. A couple of the key findings here. YouTube continues to dominate. Roughly 9 in 10 say they use YouTube, making it the most widely used platform. That's going to come back when we talk about podcasting here in just a moment. Then TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram remain also popular among teens. The majorities of teens aged 13 to 17 say they use TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram primarily. For older teens ages 15 to 17, these shares are about 7 in 10. They're less likely to use Facebook. Duh, we got that. Twitter, well, no one's using Twitter. I love the fact that it's, again, Twitter, recently renamed X. They
Do they
were
have
a
to? Yeah.
decade ago.
Stop. Just
Uh,
stop it with that. It's just
it's
X.
just X, right? We got it.
Yeah.
We get it,
We
right?
got it that you're upset about it. You're
The,
personally offended
exactly.
because Elon changed the name. We get it.
Yeah. Yeah. As well, it's soon to be meaningless anyway. Anyway, teen site and app usage has changed little in the past year. The share of teens using these platforms has remained relatively stable since spring of 2022, when the last survey was done. The article goes on to in great detail about a number of the results here. Anything here stand out to you, or sort of you want to have a take on here?
The 25% who use social media all the time, like they're always on, is a tad bit disturbing. So that has doubled since 2014 and 15 when they did this survey. And I'm assuming Moore's law, it'll speed up
Mm,
as that's going. So we could see half of that age bracket be constantly online. And
yeah.
of course, I don't you don't need Pew to tell us that. We can see it as we go out. I mean, you can, not that I want to be an old curmudgeon or anything, but you can
Well,
absolutely
no,
see
just
it
yeah.
happening.
Yeah, just to clarify, this was the how much time are spent teens spending online. This
Yep.
chart, which is quite interesting, disturbing, maybe, where the almost constantly number in 2014 and 2015 was 24%. Several times a day was 56%, and about once a day was 12%. And then if you cut to now 2023, the almost constantly has jumped from 24% to 46%.
Oh, okay, then I
Um,
had it wrong. I underestimated that. So that's you're correct. So it's almost half
yeah,
of
it's
this
almost half.
is
I mean, basically, the
constantly,
about once a day or the several times a week have disappeared. Basically,
because
that's where the growth has come.
you're just
Yeah,
always connected.
you're just always on it. It's
We
and this is we see this a lot with younger people, which is a little crazy. I mean, it gets to my, you know, what's interesting, and I would love your take on this because of the content creator thing, which is all the data I'm seeing. This became my prediction for CMI, in terms of the evolution or de-evolution of what we would largely call social media is kind of dying, right? In other words, they're on it constantly, but the number of people, the gap between content consumers and content creators is continues to widen. So I've not seen data on this recently, but let's say it was, it used to be 80% consumption, 20% creators creating. I think that's number is, probably
Oh
all
yeah, that's
90,
totally
10,
different.
95, 5, right? Just we're consuming, we've all been TikToked, right? Basically, we're all consuming much more content on social media. The number of creators has really dropped off the cliff.
I would agree with that. And I would say that if you're just looking at content creation in general, content marketing approaches, that short form video is the gateway drug now.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, whether you look at, you're on Facebook and you're looking at the reels there, you're on Instagram looking at reels,
Yep.
you're using TikTok, you've got YouTube shorts. if you are trying to break in and build an audience of any kind, it's through short form video. And you're right. I don't even know what to do with this, Robert, to be honest. I've had the opportunity to be around family this time of the year, so it's wonderful. And I've been around some teenagers, and I've asked, I'm very curious, right? I want to know
Sure.
which apps they're using. To your point about social interaction, it seems like Snapchat is like a messaging service
That's
that's
right.
very, very social. That's like how we use a text message. They don't call it text messaging, but that's how they message each other. That's where they do, or WhatsApp if you want to as
Yep.
well. But everything else, in terms of time spent, just doing a straw poll, it's 6 to 10 hours a day.
Right.
And
That's right.
I don't know what to do with that number. And I know how, I mean,
Yeah.
I can see how it's being used. I mean, it's like you're binging on Netflix. You're going reel after reel after reel. I see my kids doing it as well. And it's, it's a bit disturbing. And so there's that. There's just from a usage standpoint, it's disturbing even more. You've got that, and you and I talked about before the show. You've got this this push into online gambling that everybody's, because you've got the ESPN bet thing and everything. So you've got
Mhm.
these two things that are really concerning that's going on right now. But from a business standpoint, you cannot deny that if you want to gain attention, you need to be looking at short form video.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like you look at this because the misinterpretation of like what I just said, right, which is that social media is just becoming media and it's becoming less social
Yeah.
and the creation versus consumption gap is widening is well, that means less creators are creating content. No, what it means is that the creators that are there creating content, it used to be, and maybe people have forgotten, but it used to be 2013, 2014, 2015. The goal of social media was to build your community, right? To have conversation, to have, to bring up topics and have people react and engage and share your stuff. And that's the stuff that's going away. In other words, as a business opportunity, either for a content creator or for a marketing team or whatever, those the channels are just as viable because you're creating stuff meant for consumption. It's the use case, the value that changes, right? So in other words, if your goal with Facebook or your goal with Threads or your goal with Instagram is to build conversation, build a community, have conversation, engagement, and create that sort of following that communicates with one another, you're probably not going to do very well. But if your goal is as a media distribution network, very much like how we've been using YouTube for the last
Yeah.
10 years, not as a social network, but rather as a media distribution platform, you'll do a lot better.